case 1. For question 1, which is base 5, explain the importance of calculating the national income. The answer is first, measuring economic performance or growth. Second, evaluate sector change. Third, determine the contribution of various sectors. For question 2, briefly explain how two economic sectors important to support the economic growth. The answer is the economic sector is important to support economic growth because the contribution from the economic sector can measure the percentage of output value of an economic sector compared to the total value of national output or GDP. Next, question number 3. Explain how the government can solve the economic problem across at the time. The government can solve the economic problems across at the time by lowering the general price level, overcome the problem of inflation. The government needs to carry out direct control and import substitution campaign to reduce the problem of inflation in Malaysia. Last one, question 4. Explain two limitations of GDP measurement. First, measurement of GDP. One limitation lies in it fails to account for the informal economy. For instance, in Malaysia, the bustling informal sector participating activity like street vending or unregistered business contributes significantly to the economy but often goes unrecorded in GDP assessment. This omission led to an underestimation of the true economic output and skew representation of the economy, actually productivity and contribution. Second is measure its inability to reflect the quality of life or well-being of the population. A limitation of the GDP measure its inability to reflect the quality of life or well-being of the population. Looking at the high GDP that can increase the rate of economic growth does not necessarily increase the standard of living of the people uniformly and address income inequality across different regions of communities. So this happens because economic growth depends solely on GDP, which is used as a measure that can hinder the development of the country.
My name is Amira Shafiqah Saidan. My matrix number is A22B0073. I'm going to present case study 2. Question 1. Based on the graph, within the next 6 years, Heaven Norman plans to open 52 more stores in Malaysia, as it announced in December. In 2023, the company forecast double-digit sales growth. Apple has begun recruiting locally and intends to open its first store in Malaysia, with 61 locations across Malaysia. Biden focuses on low-income population and intends to add 3 more stores in 2024. How private consumption influence the national income? First, increased consumer spending leads to higher demand for goods and services. Second, private consumption is a major component of gross domestic product, which is the total value of all final product and service in the country. And the last one, consumer spending also affects government revenue through taxes. As consumers spend more, they pay more in sales taxes and other consumer taxes. Question 2. Malaysia private consumption fallen by retailer expansion and rising commodity price could spark a double boost to the economy, which is supplying more goods and service, aggregate supply, and driving people to buy them, aggregate demand. Retail expansion by Mydin, Apple, and others is boosting production and potentially lowering costs and attracting more shoppers. Higher income from commodities and tourists is putting more money in Malaysian pocket, fueling their spending power. However, faster demand growth could lead to price hike, dampening the initial boost. The government role is important. Full subsidies and tourist effort can help balance rising price and maintain the positive circle. Careful management is a key to unlocking the full potential of this consumption boom and propelling Malaysia forward. Question 3. If the Malaysian government increases spending on medical and educational expenses, the economy will adjust through several mechanisms impacting both aggregate supply and aggregate demand. Some impact on aggregate demand is direct injection of fund and confidence and investment. Some impact on aggregate supply is can improve healthcare and education, and labor force will grow. While this boost in spending promises to invigorate the economy, it is vital to keep a watchful eye to inflation and potential crowding out of private investment to ensure initial spark doesn't phase out. To make sure that the government will intended boost drive a sustainable and inclusive economic expansion, navigating this potential challenge for strategy action such as targeted spending and fiscal prudence. Question 4. National income equal to personal consumption expenditure plus government consumption and investment plus net private domestic investment plus export minus import equal to 250 plus 75 plus 100 plus 60 minus 50 equal to RM 435 billion. B. Disposable income equal to national income minus personal income tax minus corporate tax 435 billion minus 60 billion minus 45 billion equal to RM 255 billion.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Izzail Afifi bin Ismail. My matrix number is A22A0811. So I will present about case study 3. So the first question is, briefly discuss the inflation situation in January and February 2023. So my answer is, based on Bank Negara Malaysia statement, in January, headline inflation is to 3.7%, decreased 0.1% from December 2022, while the core inflation dropped to 3.9% from 4.1% in December. In February, the headline inflation remained constant at 3.7%, meanwhile the core inflation remained constant at 3.9%. The question 2, based on your opinion, what are the initiatives of the government to help the B40 group to increase their standard of living? The answer is, the government already taken several initiatives to help B40. One notable effort is the improvement of the Housewife Social Security Scheme, which is SKSSR by Ministry of Human Resource and SOSCO. This scheme provides extended coverage for illness and invalidity at affordable rate of RM120 per year or RM10 per month. The third one, differentiate between short-run full capacity and long-run full employment. The answer is, short-run full capacity refers to situation where an economy is producing at its maximum output level based on existing resource and technology, but it hasn't reached the long-term sustainable level. The long-run full employment implies that the economy is operating as its sustainable maximum output level, considering full utilization of resource and technological advancement over time. Number 4, using an appropriate diagram, analyze how an improvement in technology affects the equilibrium output and price level of an economy. So, based on the diagram, the supply curve will shift to the right, hence the equilibrium output will increase and the price level will decrease. Improvement in technology leading to increase in production With reduced production costs, the demand will increase and the price will decrease. Number 5, using the aggregate demand and short-run aggregate supply model, analyze the impact on the equilibrium output and price for each of the following. A. An increase in consumption driven by higher income would boost aggregate demand. This leads to higher equilibrium output and an increase in the price level in the short run. The demand pull effect stimulates production and raises price. B. A higher wage rate increases production costs, causing a decrease in short-run aggregate supply. This results in lower equilibrium output and a higher price level in the short run. The cost push effect reduces both production and increase price. C. An increase in government spending increase aggregate demand, leading to a higher equilibrium output and an increase in the price level in the short run. This fiscal stimulates economy activity and raise price. D. The destruction of factories reduce short-run aggregate supply, causing a decrease in both equilibrium output and an increase in the price level in the short run. The supply shock disrupts production and leads to higher price due to reduced supply.
I will discuss article number 4. Question number 1. What is the rate of inflation? The answer is the inflation rate shown at the end of December 2021 is 3.2%. Question number 2. How to calculate the inflation rate by example? In order to calculate the inflation rate, we need to know the consumer price index for the year to be calculated. This is the formula for calculating the rate of inflation. Inflation rate equals CPI of the current years minus CPI of the base year over CPI of the base year and multiply to 100. Example, given that the consumer price index in 2011 was 100 and the consumer price index in 2012 was 109, the inflation rate will be calculated as follows. Inflation rate of 2012 equals to 109 minus 100 over to 100 multiplied to 100, and the answer is 9%. Question number 3. Based on the information in the given article. Question A. What causes inflation in the domestic market? Based on the information in the article, inflation in the domestic market occurred due to 9.5% increase in the transport component, 3.4% increase in housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuel, and 3.2% increase in food and non-alcoholic beverage. The main factors contributing to inflation are increased demand for goods and services, supply chain distribution, and rising production costs due to the energy crisis. Question number B. What kind of inflation occurred in China and the United States? Give a reason for your answer. China and the United States experiences minus cost inflation because in the article it states that both China and the United States have experienced energy crisis since the post-pandemic period. The crisis has increased the cost of production in country, causing the price level to rise, not only due to high demand but also due to the increased cost of fuel. Question C. Briefly explain what economic policy can be applied and how the implementation of the policy will change the price level. Economic policies that can be used to reduce inflation are fiscal and monetary intervention. These include short-term action plans such as tax incentive, one-off tax breaks, and productivity-based subsidies to address the effects of inflation. The financial approach involves providing flexible financial financial financing to industry drivers through schemes such as direct loan, financial guarantees, and equity injection. These policies are aimed at stabilizing the supply of basic goods, supporting the business, and reducing the impact of the increase in the price of goods. Next question is number 4. Explain who benefit from inflation. Businessmen, investors, and farmers benefit from inflation because while prices are rising, they can sell goods at high price and they will benefit from the increase in the price of the good. Question number 5. Discuss the reason why inflation is considered a problem for the economy. Number 1 is purchasing power decrease. Inflation erodes the purchasing power of money. As price rise, the value of money decreases, causing consumers to be able to buy fewer goods and services with the same amount of money. Number 2 is interest rate. Central bank can raise interest rate to combat inflation, leading to higher borrowing costs for business and individuals. Number 3 is international competition. Inflation can affect the country's international competitiveness by impacting the exchange rate and making export more expensive. Export will decrease, resulting in a decrease in national income.
For question number 1, to get the labor force participation rate, the labor force must be divided by the population and times by 100. Based on the calculation, the labor force participation rate for women in 2012 was 49.55%, while men was 80.52%. However, the labor force participation rate for women increased to 52.59% in 2013, and the same goes to men, which was 80.95%. In 2014, the labor force participation rate for women once again increased to 53.68%, and unfortunately, men's labor force participation rate decreased to 80.58%. The labor force participation rate for women constantly increased to 54.24%, and the same thing happened to men, which increased to 80.64% in 2015. To find unemployment rate, the unemployed must divide by the labor force and times by 100. And based on the calculation, the unemployment rate for women in 2012 started with 3.157%, while men was 2.965%. However, women's unemployment rate increased to 3.44% in 2013, but decreased for men, which was 2.916%. In 2014, the unemployment rate for women decreased to 3.22%, and the same went to men, which decreased to 2.671%. The unemployment rate for women decreased once again to 3.152%, and on the other hand, the unemployment rate for men increased to 2.924% in 2015. For question number 2, we can see the trend of unemployment rate, where in the beginning, women's unemployment rate increased for the first year to second year, but then decreased for 2 years. On the other hand, men's unemployment rate decreased in the beginning for 2 years, but increased in the last year. For the labor force participation rate, as we can see, the trend of the labor force participation rate for women constantly increased from 2012 until 2015. On the other hand, men's labor force participation rate increased from 2012 to 2013, but then decreased in 2014, and in the last year, the rate increased again in 2015. For question number 3, we can see that many jobs have been created from various sectors that women can take the opportunity to work, such as nursing, flight attendants, and fashion designers. This allows women to generate their own income and increase the labor force for women in Malaysia. Second, year after year, more graduates from universities belong to women than men. Therefore, more women are involved in the employment sector. After that, the unstable economy also caused the labor force for women to increase. This causes many women to work to survive and support their families. Besides that, the birth of new female entrepreneurs can also slightly increase the labor force participation rate for women. Many successful female entrepreneurs prove that they are also able to succeed in business. And last but not least, the number of women in Malaysia increases year after year, which will also increase the women's participation in the labor force.
Now, I would like to explain to you about case study 6. Before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Emilia binti Amri and my matric number is A22A0567. For the question 1, I need to find the types of tarif that have been imposed in this stat. The answer for this question is ad valorem tarif. For the question 2, there are two effects I can present to you about tarif Australian agriculture export. First one is decreased producer price. This occurs when there is less demand for the good that Australian farmers are growing. This is seen by the case study PPI for melon and fresh fruit falling by 10.1%. Next, reduced export. Australian fruit like cherry and apple saw a drop in export volume as a result of the tariff, which increased the cost of Australian commodity in India. This is evident in the significant drop from 231 million to. For the question 3, I need to explain about the effect of tariff on Australian trade using diagram and how will fire change. Firstly, let me explain about effect tariff with graph. Based on this graph, prior to impose the tariff, the price is PO while the demand is Q2 and the supply is Q1. A price of PO consumer price is ABCDEF while producer price is G. The amount of imported good is Q1 to Q2. After the imposition of tariff, price have increased to Q1 while demand has decreased to Q4 and supply has increased to Q3. The price increase caused customer supply to be AB while producers price is CG. The amount of imported goods decreased to Q3, Q4. The tax revenue collected by the government is as much as P0, P1, Q3, Q4 as shown in the graph above. Net loss of the company is area of DF. Thus, the effect of tariff caused consumer supplies to decrease, producer supplies and tax government to increase. How will fire change? Welfare change because of consumer. Rising costs have a negative impact on the welfare of Indian customer. Consumer supplies is reduced in Australia as a result of rising domestic price. Next, producer. High domestic price help Australian produce which increase their supplies. Last, welfare change to government intervention. The goal of the government procurement of excess commodities is to uphold domestic producer and maintain price stability. For the last question, I need to evaluate and critically analyze the benefit and drawback of international trade. There are two benefits that I can explain to you. First one is economic growth. Increase in export of goods will increase in income for economic growth. An example for this benefit may be seen in this article, where fruit shipment from Australia to India increased significantly prior to the tariff and reached a value 231 million. Due to their increased access to market, Australian farmers are able to raise their output and their earning. Next, sharing of knowledge and technology. By engaging in international trade, numerous nations can exchange their technological and knowledge resource. Innovation and technology transfer can be facilitated by international trade. For instance, fruit growers in India may teach Australian new method of cultivation of fruit kinds. For the drawback, there are 3 points that I can explain to you, which is transportation cost. If transportation was too high, it will be risk to the country. Transportation costs for trade across long distance as those between Australia and India are high. Australian producers may find it more difficult to compete in the India market as a result of these expenses, which could reduce their price advantage. Next, depletion of country reserve. The continued export from a country may deplete a country reserve of the deposit in the long run. In order to support farmer, the Australia government respond to the tariff by purchasing excess commodity using taxpayer money. Lastly, dependence and vulnerability. When a nation becomes too dependent on a specific trading partner, it exposes it to economic shock. Countries that significantly depend on export may suffer from changes in international demand, unstable political environment, or conflict over trade. An example for this can be found in Australian situation when farmers suffer large loss due to the abrupt decrease in export.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Nora Shikin binti Abdul Ghani and my matric number is A22A0910. I choose case study number 7 about crop into bicycle dumping from abroad. First, we need to know what's the meaning of dumping. Dumping is defined as the practice of exporting goods to another country at a price lower than their typical value or below the cost of production. This can be harmful to the importing country's domestic industry since it can lead to unfair competition, reduced market share, and potential harm to local producers. Next, question 2 is 2 reasons why the foreign firms dump their bicycles in Malaysia. It's because of overcapacity and competitive advantage. Foreign enterprises may dump if they have extra manufacturing capacity and need to dispose surplus goods. Next, foreign producers may strive to gain competitive advantage in the export market by offering lower prices, which are frequently subsidized by their government. Is it dumping seen as an unfair act? In my opinion, it's yes. Dumping is widely seen as an unfair trade practice since it might affect competitiveness in the market of the importing country. Question 4 asking to effect dumping on local bicycle producers, which is price reduction of bicycles to be sold at lower price than locally produced bicycles. This affects domestic producers' pricing structures, making it difficult for them to compete. Next is loss of shares. The entry of cheaper imported bicycles might result in significant market share loss for local markets. Last question is 3 measures that the Malaysian government can take to eliminate dumping. Firstly is anti-dumping duties. The Malaysian government may impose anti-dumping duties on bicycles imported from the implicated nations. These duties would level the playing field and reduce the impact of dumping. Second is negotiations and agreements. The government may engage in diplomatic negotiations with exporting countries to address the issue and explore the prospect of reaching agreements to prevent dumping practices. Third is monitoring and enforcement. Improving monitoring techniques and implementing current trade restrictions can aid in the detection and punishment of dumping. This involves regular monitoring of market dynamics in order to discover unfair trade practices.